muffled audio. Please don't do this to me. I thought y'all were my friends. Followed by cruel laughter. Stop. Rewind that. Listen again. That voice belongs to Mahogany Jackson, and she's about to die the most brutal death you can imagine. But here's the part that'll make your blood run cold. Every person laughing in that audio had her phone number saved under a heart emoji. This isn't some random street crime. This isn't a robbery gone wrong. This is 8 people who called themselves family, who had sleepovers at her house, who borrowed money from her, who she trusted with her 3-year-old daughter, and they spent 30 hours turning her death into entertainment. Look at this split screen. On the left, Mahogany's Instagram story from February 23rd, 2024. She's making breakfast for her daughter. Caption reads, "Blessed Mama Life." On the right, that's where they threw her body 12 hours later, covered in mattresses, like she was trash they needed to hide. But here's what's going to destroy you. She walked into that apartment carrying apology gifts. She brought them food, thinking they were mad about some petty drama. She was trying to fix a friendship that was already planning her funeral. The media told you this was about a stolen gun. That's a lie. I have the police interrogation transcripts, and the real motive is so much darker. 3 of her killers admitted they'd been planning this for weeks, and the reason why will make you question everyone in your own circle. Here's what nobody reported. Mahogany sent 17 text messages to different friends that day, begging someone to come with her to this meeting. 17 people had the chance to save her life. Every single one of them said no. But one of them said no for a very specific reason that proves they knew exactly what was going to happen. By the end of this video, you'll know the 3 warning signs that scream, your friends are planning to hurt you. Signs so obvious that once you see them, you'll wonder how Mahogany missed them. But here's the terrifying truth. You're probably missing them right now in your own life. I'm about to tell you something that's going to make you uncomfortable. Right now, you're making the same choice those 8 killers made. You're deciding whether to care or just consume. See, the people who subscribe to this channel, they're the ones who would have said yes when Mahogany asked for backup. They're the ones who recognize that learning about these cases isn't entertainment, it's survival training. They understand that the only way to honor victims like Mahogany is to make sure this never happens again. But the people who don't subscribe, they're the ones who would have ignored her 17 text messages. They're the ones who treat true crime like a Netflix show instead of a warning system. So here's my question. When Mahogany was sending those desperate texts, would you have been the friend who showed up? Or would you have been the friend who left her on red? Your answer to that question should determine whether you hit that subscribe button right now. Scroll through Mahogany Jackson's Instagram from January 2024, and you'd think you were looking at someone who had it all figured out. Designer handbags, fresh manicures every week, her own hair salon buzzing with clients. She posted motivational quotes about being a boss babe and building an empire from nothing. To her 15,000 followers, she was living proof that hard work pays off. But here's what those perfectly curated posts didn't show you. Mahogany was drowning in debt, behind on her salon rent by 3 months, and borrowing money from anyone who would lend it. Court records show she owed over $12,000 to various creditors, including several people in her inner circle. The designer bags, knockoffs from online, the successful business. She was 2 weeks away from losing her lease. The pressure to maintain this fake lifestyle was crushing her. Friends say she would skip meals to afford new outfits for Instagram photos. She was taking out payday loans just to keep up appearances. This desperation to look successful made her vulnerable to people who knew exactly how to exploit her financial fears. When someone in her circle offered to help her out with money, she couldn't afford to say no, even when every instinct told her something was wrong. Let me introduce you to the 8 people Mahogany trusted with her life. Brandon Pope, 24, her former roommate who still had keys to her apartment. Frances Harris, 22, someone she'd known since high school who called her sister. Jeremiah McDowell, 26, who she'd dated briefly 2 years earlier. Blair Green, 23, her supposed best friend who was godmother to her daughter. Then there's Sandia McCall, 21, who lived in the apartment where Mahogany was tortured. Tisa Lewis, 19, who Mahogany had helped get her first job. Giovanni Clapp, 25, who borrowed her car regularly, and Ariana Robinson, 20, who Mahogany considered family and had even paid her phone bill multiple times. But here's the bombshell that never made national news. Police recovered text messages showing that Pope, Harris, and McCall had been planning to teach Mahogany a lesson for 3 weeks before her murder. The messages, obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request, show them discussing how to get her alone and make her pay for disrespecting them. One message from Pope to Harris, dated February 5th, reads, "That girl thinks she's better than us now. Time to bring her back down to earth." Harris responded, "I got the perfect plan. She'll come if we tell her it's about making peace." These weren't crimes of passion. This was a calculated conspiracy between people she loved, people she would have died for. And tragically, she did. The stolen gun wasn't just any weapon. It was Mahogany's personal protection, a 9mm Glock she'd bought after being robbed at her salon 6 months earlier. She kept it registered, legal, and locked in her car's glove compartment. But someone in her inner circle knew exactly where to find it. Police reports reveal that Frances Harris had stolen the gun during a house party at Mahogany's place in early February. When Mahogany discovered it missing, she knew immediately who had taken it. Her family begged her to just report it stolen and move on. Her mother literally got on her knees and pleaded with her not to confront Harris directly. But Mahogany couldn't let it go. In her mind, if that gun was used in a crime, it would trace back to her. She'd lose her business license, her reputation, everything she'd worked for. This is the psychological trap that kills people, loyalty to those who don't deserve it. She chose to protect people who were already planning to destroy her, and that misplaced loyalty cost her everything. February 24th, 2024, 11:30 a.m. Mahogany's phone buzzes with a text from Blair Green. "Hey sis, can we talk? I hate how things have been between us lately." This message was the bait in a trap that had been 3 weeks in the making. Green followed up with voice messages, crying, saying she missed their friendship and wanted to make things right about the gun situation. The lies came fast and calculated. Green told Mahogany that Frances Harris was ready to apologize and return the stolen weapon.
New developments in the case of Mahogany Jackson. Birmingham police say 8 people played a role in her deadly kidnapping back in February. WVTM 13's Magdala Lusan joins us now live with more. Magdala?
Yes, Sherry, a grand jury decided all of them will now be facing capital murder charges. These are the 8 people charged in Mahogany Jackson's murder. Some of them were already charged with capital murder. Others were facing only sodomy and felony murder charges. That was until the grand jury recently decided and agreed with the Jefferson County DA that everyone should be charged with capital murder. Now, you may remember this gruesome case from early this year. In late February, Mahogany's family reported her missing. The next day, her body was found near Laurel Avenue in the Powderly neighborhood. Investigators determined at the scene she had been shot and say she was sexually assaulted. The details learned in court months ago are too disturbing to describe on television. District Danny Carr tells me upgrading charges for everyone sends the message that there's a price to pay for barbaric actions.
People in society need to understand that, when you partake in these kind of actions, whether directly or indirectly, that you're criminally responsible as well. And we hope that sends a message loud and clear that we're not going to stand for it, that there's going to be a significant punishment for them. And, going forward, people will think twice about committing these kind of heinous acts in our community.
A card tells me the capital murder charge carries a minimum of life without parole, and it carries the death penalty as well. A date for the trial has not been scheduled yet.
So New Life at 5, it's been almost a year since 20-year-old Mahogany Jackson was found shot to death at a dumping site. Police say the young mom was kidnapped, brutally beaten, tortured, and most of that abuse was recorded and posted on social media. Now, there are 8 suspects facing the death penalty in this case.
And Jackson's mother is now exclusively revealing to your reporter Bria Chapman what this past year has been like. Bria, unimaginable what she's been going through.
Yes, that's right, Morgan. So heartbreaking. Now, Gail Maddox says she misses her child, and there is not a day that goes by that she does not think about Mahogany. And she says as hard as it is to get out of bed each day, she does it for her other children and to make sure she continues to fight to get justice for Mahogany.
February the 25th. That was when she actually called my daughter and sent me a text message. So, and I knew something wasn't right, because if you know Mahogany, she's not the type of person to call and ask for help. So for her to send the message that she did, I knew she was in trouble.
Her mother's intuition was right.
It said, "I'm being held hostage in apartment 3. Don't call, send the police, hurry."
She immediately sent family members and police to that location, but sadly, it was not the outcome anyone wanted. Maddox says losing her child and also knowing so many people are accused in participating in horrific acts is devastating.
I would never think that so many people could hate one individual so bad. My child was 120 pounds, soaking wet. But 8 people, that's too much. I don't wish this feeling, I don't wish this hurt, this anger, I don't wish any of this on anybody. You know, not even my worst enemy. I don't wish this on the mothers of the people that did this to my child. Nobody wins in this situation. Nobody.
As she reflects on the last year without Mahogany, she says it's an indescribable pain that makes it hard for her to keep going.
It seems like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. You know, people say, "Oh, you're so strong," but they just don't know. There are sometimes when I say, you know, "Lord, I just can't do this no more. I can't get up. I just can't do nothing. I don't want to do anything today. I just, you know, sometimes I don't even want to be, you know." And I think about the fact that if I don't speak up for my daughter, nobody is going to, because I am all she has. I was all she had when she was here, and I'm still all she has right now.
Yeah, now the suspects in Jackson's case will be back in court in April, and that will be the day before what would have been Mahogany's 21st birthday. And next week marks 1 year, and the family tells me they plan to celebrate with a balloon release. They're asking anyone out there who'd like to show their love and support to her to get some pink balloons and release them in Jackson's honor next Tuesday. Jonathan?
She said Sandy and McCall wanted to clear the air too, and that they'd all meet at McCall's apartment in the Serenity Complex to hash everything out like adults. Green even promised they'd order food and make it a girls' night, just like old times. Security footage from the apartment complex shows Mahogany arriving at 6:47 p.m., carrying 2 bags from a local restaurant and a bottle of wine. She's wearing a pink tracksuit, her hair freshly done, looking relaxed and hopeful. The timestamp shows her knocking on apartment 3's door, then hugging Blair Green when it opens. She's smiling, completely trusting, handing over the food like she's arriving at a friend's birthday party. What Mahogany didn't know was that all 8 suspects were already inside waiting. Phone records show they'd been coordinating her arrival through a group chat she wasn't part of. The last message in that chat, sent at 6:45 p.m., just 2 minutes before she knocked, read, "She's here. Everyone ready." 6:51 p.m. For minutes after Mahogany walked through that door, everything changed. According to police testimony and recovered video footage, the shift happened the moment she asked about getting her gun back. Francis Harris looked at her and said, "What gun? I don't know what you're talking about." That's when Mahogany realized she'd been set up. The psychological transformation was instant and terrifying. These people who had been hugging her minutes earlier suddenly became strangers. Blair Green, who had been crying about missing their friendship, was the first to grab Mahogany's phone when she tried to leave. Brandon Pope blocked the door. Within 60 seconds, 8 people had surrounded one woman who trusted them completely. Here's what's chilling about group psychology. Not one of these 8 people would have hurt Mahogany alone, but together they became something monstrous. Social psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility. When everyone assumes someone else will stop the madness, so nobody does. Each person told themselves they weren't the worst one in the room. 7:03 p.m. 16 minutes in, and they'd already tied her hands. The video evidence shows Mahogany still trying to reason with them, still calling them by name, still believing this was some kind of misunderstanding that could be fixed. She's saying, "Come on, Blair, you know me. We're family." But Blair Green was already holding the camera, filming her friend's terror for entertainment. By 7:15 p.m., any pretense of this being about the gun had disappeared. This had become about power, about humiliation, about 8 people who felt small in their own lives, finally having someone completely at their mercy. The friend who had brought them dinner was now their victim, and not one of them had the humanity to stop it. Here's how stupid these killers were. They documented everything. Not just the torture, but their planning, their coordination, even their celebration afterward. Police recovered over 40 videos from their phones, some posted to social media in real time. Ariana Robinson actually went live on Instagram while Mahogany was being beaten in the background. The most disturbing post came from Giovanni Clapp at 9:23 p.m. He uploaded a video to his Snapchat story with the caption, "This what happens when you disrespect the family," while Mahogany's screams are audible in the background. 12 people viewed that story before it disappeared, and not one of them called police. They thought they were untouchable because they'd done this before. Police discovered this wasn't their first group assault. They'd attacked 2 other women in the past year, but those victims were too scared to press charges. Their arrogance made them sloppy, and their need for social media validation became the evidence that would put them all on death row. What happened in apartment 3 at Serenity Complex for the next 6 hours will haunt you forever. The recovered footage shows them forcing Mahogany to strip naked while they beat her with extension cords and kitchen utensils. They made her crawl on broken glass they'd scattered on the floor. Frances Harris held a loaded gun to her head, while the others took turns kicking her in the ribs. But the physical torture was nothing compared to the psychological warfare. They forced her to call herself worthless, to apologize for thinking she was better than them. Blair Green made her repeat, "I'm nothing without my friends," over and over while filming her face. They showed her videos of her 3-year-old daughter, threatening to hurt the child if Mahogany didn't comply with their demands. The most sadistic part was how they gave her hope, then crushed it. They'd untie her hands and tell her she could leave if she just did one more thing. Then they'd laugh when she believed them and add another hour of torture. Giovanni Clapp forced her to transfer money from her business account to his, promising it would end her suffering. It didn't. Around midnight, they realized neighbors might hear the screams. Security footage shows them carrying Mahogany, wrapped in a bloody sheet, to Brandon Pope's car in the parking garage. She was barely conscious, but still alive. They drove her to a second location, Pope's house on the south side of Birmingham, where the real nightmare was just beginning. The move wasn't random. Pope's house was isolated, with no close neighbors and soundproof basement walls. They'd planned this location switch from the beginning, which proves this was never about teaching her a lesson. This was always about murder. Here's what I can't wrap my head around. 8 people watched this happen. 8 people who had eaten at Mahogany's table, who had borrowed her money, who had called her family. How does that happen? How do 8 human beings simultaneously lose their humanity? The answer lies in something psychologists call moral disengagement. When you're in a group, your individual moral compass gets overridden by group dynamics. Each person told themselves they weren't the worst one in the room. Tisa Lewis later claimed she just held the camera, as if that made her innocent. Sandia McCall said she didn't hit her as hard as the others, like that was some kind of defense. But here's the real psychology behind group violence. It starts with one person crossing a line. Then everyone else feels permission to cross it too. When Frances Harris first slapped Mahogany, it gave Blair Green permission to spit on her. When Green did that, it gave Jeremiah McDowell permission to kick her. Each escalation normalized the next level of brutality. The most disturbing part is how they fed off each other's energy. The videos show them laughing harder when someone else joined in. They were competing to see who could be the most creative with their cruelty. Ariana Robinson later admitted she participated because she didn't want to look weak in front of the group. This is how normal people become monsters. They don't wake up evil. They get swept up in groupthink, and before they know it, they're filming their friend's murder for entertainment. 7:46 a.m., February 25th. After 19 hours of torture, Mahogany saw her chance. Brandon Pope had left his phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while he went to get more rope from the garage. Mahogany, barely able to move, crawled across the floor and grabbed it. Her fingers were so swollen she could barely type, but she managed to send a Facebook message to her mother. Send police apartment 3 held hostage, don't call. She dropped a location pin and hit send just as she heard Pope's footsteps returning. She threw the phone back on the counter and pretended to be unconscious. Gail Maddox was driving to Atlanta Airport when she got that message. She immediately called 911 while making a U-turn back to Birmingham. The dispatcher told her officers were being sent to Serenity Apartments immediately. Gail was screaming into the phone, "My daughter is dying. Please hurry." But here's the tragedy that will destroy you. By the time police arrived at apartment 3, Mahogany was already gone. They'd moved her 20 minutes after she sent that text. If Pope had taken 30 seconds longer in that garage, if Mahogany had sent the message 30 minutes earlier, if police had responded just a little bit faster, she might still be alive. The timing was cruel. Her mother's quick response and the police's immediate action should have saved her. Instead, it just meant they found an empty apartment and a trail of blood leading to the parking garage. The killers handed police their own conviction on a silver platter. Within hours of finding Mahogany's body, investigators had recovered over 60 videos from various social media platforms. These weren't hidden in some dark corner of the internet. They were posted openly on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat for everyone to see. Detective Mark Green from Birmingham PD told me the digital evidence was unlike anything he'd seen in 20 years of homicide investigations. The suspects had filmed everything from multiple angles, complete with timestamps and location data. Their phones automatically backed up to cloud storage, so even when they tried to delete the videos, investigators could recover them. But here's what sealed their fate: the metadata. Every video contained GPS coordinates, exact timestamps, and device information that placed each suspect at both crime scenes. Francis Harris had even tagged his location on Instagram while torturing Mahogany. The arrogance was staggering. The social media trail led investigators to discover a group chat called Family Business, where all 8 suspects coordinated the attack. Messages recovered from this chat showed premeditation going back 3 weeks. One message from Blair Green read, "Can't wait to see that girl learn some respect." Technology didn't just solve this case. It made it impossible for any of them to claim innocence. 48 hours. That's how long it took to arrest all 8 suspects, and it wasn't because of brilliant detective work. It was because they were too stupid to run. Half of them were still posting on social media when police showed up at their doors. Giovanni Clapp was literally at a barbershop, getting his hair cut when officers arrested him. The evidence was so overwhelming that prosecutors called it the most bulletproof case in Jefferson County history. DNA evidence linked every suspect to the crime scenes. Their own videos showed their faces clearly. Phone records tracked their movements between locations. Even their Uber receipts became evidence when police discovered Tisa Lewis had ordered a ride to dispose of bloody clothes. But what really accelerated the investigation were the community tips. The videos had gone viral locally, and people were calling in with information faster than police could process it. Anonymous tipsters identified the suspects by name, provided their addresses, and even told police where to find the murder weapon. The most damning evidence came from their own families. Ariana Robinson's grandmother called police after seeing her granddaughter in one of the torture videos. She provided Robinson's location and begged officers to arrest her before she hurt someone else. Even their own blood relatives couldn't stomach what they'd done. During interrogation, 6 of the 8 suspects confessed immediately when shown the video evidence. But their confessions revealed something even more disturbing than the crime itself. They felt no remorse. Frances Harris told detectives. She had it coming for disrespecting us. Blair Green actually laughed when asked if she regretted her actions. The only suspect who showed any emotion was Tisa Lewis, who broke down crying and claimed she was just following the group. She tried to minimize her role, saying she only held the camera and didn't actually hit her. But the videos showed Lewis spitting on Mahogany and encouraging the others to make her suffer more. If Mahogany had recognized these 3 warning signs, she'd be alive today. First, escalating group hostility toward one person. In the weeks before her murder, Mahogany's friend group had started ganging up on her in group chats, making jokes at her expense, and excluding her from plans they used to include her in. When multiple people in your circle suddenly start treating you like an outsider, that's not coincidence. That's coordination. The second warning sign is friends who encourage risky behavior or try to isolate you from your support system. Blair Green had been pushing Mahogany to cut ties with her family, claiming they were holding her back and didn't understand their friendship. Green also encouraged Mahogany to take bigger financial risks with her business, knowing she was already struggling. When friends try to separate you from people who genuinely care about you, they're setting you up for something. The third and most obvious warning sign is people who film conflicts instead of de-escalating them. Mahogany's friends had been recording their arguments for months, turning every disagreement into content for social media. Normal friends try to calm situations down. Toxic friends grab their phones and start recording because they see your pain as entertainment. Here's the brutal truth. If your friends are more excited to film your breakdown than help you through it, they're not your friends. They're predators waiting for the right moment to strike. Mahogany missed these signs because she wanted to believe the best in people who had already shown her their worst. Mahogany's fatal flaw was her loyalty to people who didn't deserve it. She kept giving second chances to friends who had already proven they couldn't be trusted. Frances Harris had stolen from her before. Blair Green had spread rumors about her parenting. Brendan Pope had violated her privacy by going through her phone. Yet she kept them in her life because she believed loyalty meant never giving up on people. But here's what Mahogany didn't understand. Loyalty should never be one-sided. Real friends don't make you prove your loyalty by accepting their disrespect. They don't test your friendship by seeing how much abuse you'll tolerate. When someone consistently shows you they don't value your well-being, believing in their potential for change becomes self-destruction. The warning signs of dangerous loyalty are clear. You're making excuses for behavior you'd never accept from strangers. You're prioritizing their feelings over your own safety. You're keeping secrets about how they treat you because you know others would tell you to walk away. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's survival. Mahogany thought cutting off toxic friends would make her a bad person. Instead, refusing to cut them off made her a dead person. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do for yourself is to stop being loyal to people who are planning your destruction. Social media drama doesn't stay online anymore. It escalates to real-world violence faster than ever before. The group chat where Mahogany's killers planned her murder started with petty comments about her Instagram posts. Within 3 weeks, those comments became death threats, and those threats became action. Watch for these digital warning signs. Friends who screenshot your posts to mock them in other group chats. People who film you during vulnerable moments instead of offering support. Group chats where you're discussed but not included. If they're talking about you without you, they're planning something against you. Most importantly, take online threats seriously. When Frances Harris posted, "Some people need to learn respect the hard way," with Mahogany tagged in the comments, that wasn't just internet tough talk. That was a public declaration of intent. Screenshots of threatening messages should go straight to police, not your camera roll. The internet has made it easier for groups to coordinate violence while creating a false sense of distance from consequences. Don't let digital communication fool you into thinking the threats aren't real. As of December 2024, all 8 defendants are sitting on Alabama's death row, awaiting execution by lethal injection. This case made legal history as the largest group to receive capital punishment for a single victim in Alabama since 1976. The jury deliberated for only 43 minutes before recommending death for all defendants. one of the fastest capital punishment decisions on record. Mahogany's mother, Gail Maddox, stood outside the courthouse after sentencing and said, "They showed my daughter no mercy, so they deserve none in return. Justice was served today, but it won't bring my baby back." The family has stated they will attend every execution to ensure Mahogany's killers face the same fate they gave her. Birmingham implemented the Mahogany Jackson alert system in September 2024, requiring police to respond to hostage situations within 15 minutes instead of the previous 30-minute standard. The city also launched a digital evidence task force specifically trained to handle social media-related crimes after this case exposed gaps in their cyber investigation capabilities. Local schools now teach digital citizenship classes that include Mahogany's story as a cautionary tale about online behavior escalating to real violence. Her salon has been converted into a community center offering free self-defense classes and financial literacy programs for young mothers. Mahogany's legacy isn't just about the justice she received. It's about the lives her story continues to save. Mahogany's story needs to be told, so this never happens again. But here's what I've noticed after covering hundreds of these cases. The people who subscribe to channels like mine are the ones who actually care about preventing these tragedies. They're the ones who would speak up, who would intervene, who would be the friend Mahogany desperately needed that night. The people who don't subscribe? They're usually the ones who would just scroll past, just like those neighbors who heard her screams for 6 hours and did absolutely nothing. So I'm asking you directly, are you someone who cares enough to hit that subscribe button? Or are you going to be like those 8 people who stood by and watched their friend get tortured to death? Your choice right now tells me everything I need to know about who you really are.